Okay, so it's 10 minutes to 3 here in Sweden, but I think time for all your participants will probably vary a lot since we're joined by quite a diverse crowd of participants here today that we're very happy about. My name is Joel Laurén. I work at the ICLD Knowledge Center together with Anna Maria, who you heard speak earlier. And for your knowledge, just to in the beginning, this session will be recorded so that we will be able to share it with more people after the end of the session as well. I'm happy to be joined today by representatives of the Stockholm City to share their experiences of making a voluntary local review. We are also supposed to be joined by Mariana from Buenos Aires. We haven't seen her yet, but we are happy to be joined by Andrea Chambra, who has written the report on the voluntary local reviews and is well read up on the subjects of the Buenos Aires review as well. So I'll ask him to share some reflections on the Buenos Aires voluntary local review if Mariana doesn't join us in time for that. I'm very excited today to be joined by all the participants. As I mentioned, quite a diverse crowd. So I'd like to start by asking the participants to please write in the chat where you're joining us from and whether your city has done or plans to do a voluntary local review. That would be interesting to see. Because as Andrea mentioned earlier in this presentation, this is quite a bit of a movement at this point. There's a lot of cities that's been doing voluntary local reviews, and the dots on the map keeps popping up on the new voluntary local reviews. So that's a very exciting development. And this is the case also here in Sweden as well, where we have 5 cities so far, as Andrea mentioned, who's done voluntary local reviews. This session will be divided into 2 parts. I will first invite the representatives of Stockholm City to make a 10-minute presentation about their experiences of making a voluntary local review. And I will then invite Andrea or Mariana, if we're joined by her, to share the experiences of Buenos Aires. But after that, we also want to make this a interactive session. So I want to invite all the participants of the session today to ask questions afterwards when the presentations are done. So you can write your questions in the chat during the presentations from the cities, or you can also raise your hands at the end of at the beginning of the participatory session after the presentations as well. I'd like to start now by handing over to Elizabeth and Helen. And Stockholm is the capital city of Sweden. It's also long been in the forefront of innovation and sustainable development. So recently you took the steps to making a voluntary local review, which is very exciting. It's also exciting for me to listen to, since Stockholm is my hometown. So I'm very excited to hear about the developments that you've made in the city so far. So please, Elizabeth and Helen, the floor is yours.
Okay, we start with presenting ourselves and then we go on with the presentation. So I'm Elizabeth.
Helene.
And we work as analysts at the executive office in Stockholm. And we have been project managers for the development of the Stockholm VLR.
Yes. Then we have some PowerPoints to share. So, can you see it?
Can you see it?
We can see it. You can try to click the Bildspel button to the lower right to see if you, because we see the comments now as well.
Because I did do that, but yeah. Is it the same?
We can still see the comment section, but I think we can see the picture, so you could proceed. Sometimes if you have 2 screens, it's because you have the wrong screen set for the
We only have one at this point. Actually, jag ska se. Finns det någon här uppe? Där har vi en också.
där från början.
Is it better now? No?
I think it's the same, but it's we can see the picture, so I think you can proceed still.
Okay.
Okay. So we were asked to present steps that we made to write the VLR, and we start a bit with the background. It was a political decision in Stockholm that we should work in accordance with the global goals, and this was taken 2018. Yeah, but of course we have been working with sustainability issues a long time before that, but the decision to work according to Agenda 2030 was a new way of presenting it, so to say, but we have been working with these issues for decades in Stockholm. And there was a need to follow the city's sustainability work as a whole. And we first made a Swedish report actually about our work, but then we decided to join the VLR, and that was also we have a lot of international collaboration, and the VLR was a way to make it easier to work with other cities around the world, and so that's why we did it. And Stockholm has this slide shows how Stockholm's vision. Stockholm has a vision 2040 that is very much connected with the global goals. We are focusing on 3 overarching goals in the city, and they are very connected with the agenda goals in the Agenda 2030. So we also have decided the city has decided to take a leading role in implementing the Agenda 2030 goals at a local level. So this VLR will strengthen the city's sustainability work, both according to the Vision 2040 and to the Agenda 2030 goals.
Lisa, I'm sorry, this is Kerstin. May I interrupt you? Did you change a picture? Because we still see your first picture and you're commenting on the vision. Perhaps we need to see the second one, or
but we are you haven't seen any change yet.
My mistake. I'm sorry. I'll keep quiet.
Can you see it?
It's still the first picture. So if you stop sharing your screen, I'll try to share through mine, and we'll see if you can just let me know to change the slides. Okay, so Kerstin, let me know, do you see the picture or the?
I see the first picture very well now, thank you.
So it's full screen, the picture.
It's full screen.
Yeah, and you were here?
Yeah, we are this one.
Okay, just tell me when to.
Okay, so this on this slide you see our vision 2040, and we have so that's the long-term vision of Stockholm, and then we have decided to work towards the Agenda 2040 goals as well. So this voluntary local reviews, it's following up our sustainability work, both according to the vision to 2040 and according to the global goals. That's what I want to say. You can change it. Okay. And one very important recommendation that we have is to anchor the VLR process in the city's organization. And we have all Stockholm City's operation has a responsibility to work accordingly to the global SDGs goals. And to speed up the work, we have committed goal responsible committees that have been also involved in the VCL process. You can,
yeah, for example, the educational committee has a responsibility to work with goal number 4 about better education.
And we also have something I think is quite unique for that we have a Agenda 2030 council that supports the work. And this is one of our ways that we involve the civil society in the process. Because this Agenda 2030 Council, it consists of politicians and representatives from the civil society, and they have given us a lot of comments and advice in the work with the VLR. And for instance, they urge us to dare to identify challenges and to address needs, not only to stress on the positive sides, to promote Stockholm, for instance. And examples of that is the growing car traffic and questions about socioeconomic differences. So you can change slide.
Yes, and you also asked for some practical tips to other local governments when developing a VLR. We started with looking at previous VLR reports to find inspiration, for example, Turku and Bristol. Make it very clear and simple. If you choose indicators, choose few. We decided on one indicator per goal, per SDG. Show both the current situation and the development that has led to this, but maybe not only numbers and indicators, but also point out weaknesses and development areas, and also especially good best practices and synergies between different goals. And when we made this international version, we felt that we had to present, this is Stockholm, and to describe the political system, for example. Yeah, you can change slide, please. And as I mentioned, we choose one indicator per goal. And for example, for goal number 10, reduced inequalities, we chose child poverty. Social sustainability has been strengthened in Sweden. And long-term trends shows that Stockholm's standards of living is increasing, including a slight reduction in the proportion of children living in poverty, but there are still big differences in living conditions. So that's just one example. Change slide, please. Another example is that for goal number 13 in the VLR, we showed the total greenhouse gas emissions in Stockholm per resident. And as you can see, it has been decreasing. We are working very hard with this, but there is still we have still a long way to go. And in 2040, Stockholm is aiming to be fossil free and also a climate positive city. Next slide, please. And you can, next slide again.
And as Helen mentioned, another tip is to show good practices in the implementation of the SDGs. And we wanted to describe good examples that strengthen several areas of sustainability at the same time. So so these examples we choose together with our administrations, so that everyone had a say in it. And this example, now you only see a slide, but this is Skärholmen area out south of Stockholm. It's a part of Stockholm, but in the south district of Stockholm. And it's an urban planning area where we have had a lot of citizens dialogues, and they have been a part of urban planning. So this is one of our examples that we lift in the report. You can you can change slide. And this is another example. It's called the Integration Pact, and it's a unique membership network with members from all sectors of society, and they have decided to work together to make people that are very far from the labor market to get closer to it and to get employed. So you can change slides. These are all, we can just go through them. It's a biocar project, and also collaboration to make the water cleaner. Water is very important to Stockholm, a part of our brand, but it's also very important for the sustainability. And this is house visits programs. This is an interesting project that first-time parents, they get visits at home, and we have this increases the confidence in authorities, and we have seen that families that are visited by these home visit programs, it's more often that they go to child care.
Yeah.
And
it has been proven to give very good results.
And you can go to the even one more. So this is just a short summary of our tips or what you call them, but it's very important to anchor the VLR process in the city organization, and to look at previous VLR reports and find inspiration, and to make it clear and simple, and both show the current situation and the development, and don't be afraid to point out weaknesses and development areas, and show best practices, and also, of course, to adapt to an international target group, because
and maybe also you can add to work together in the whole organization, to use your colleagues and all the skills that you have in your organization.
Yeah.
Short about Stockholm. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing your progress and your experiences. And it does seem to be a lot of important progress that is being made towards the Sustainable Development Goals. So also congratulations on that. And we are happy now to also be joined by Mariana Camisa from Buenos Aires. So,
hi, everyone.
I'll invite you to, you have a presentation as well, I think. I'll invite you to briefly introduce yourself, and we look forward to hear about your experiences in making not only one VLR, but a regular recurring VLR series, from what I understand. Please,
Thank
Mariana.
you. Hi, everyone. I'm sorry I was MIA for a while, but I think I got the time change wrong. So I'm really sorry about that. So my name is Mariana. I work for the Buenos Aires city government. And as Joel said, we've been working on our VLRs for a while now. And it's great to hear also the experiences of Stockholm and other cities, so we can, continue improving. These meetings that we had around the world has definitely impacted on our VLRs. So I think it's always good that we take the time to review ourselves and on how we are reporting the SDGs. So we started working or localizing the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in Buenos Aires in 2016. And we did that with the city committed to the agenda through the focal point at the national government. And we decided to localize the SDGs based on 3 pillars or X's. So the first one is the adaptation, that it's the core of the SDG work and the process, but also the result is the VLR. Then we have an awareness raising stage that it doesn't only involve citizen participation, but also initiatives and exchanges with other actors. And then we focus on partnerships like here today, right? So sharing not only the best practices on reporting the SDGs and how to enrich the localization process, but also exchanging in good practices and how the implementation of the SDGs can be more effective, more efficient here in the city, based on how other cities in the world work. And we try to take, you know, the best of every practice and make it happen here in the city. So this today I want to focus on the adaptation. Since we are here talking about VLRs, I want to focus on our process. So what we first started doing, we commit to the agenda in 2016, right? So right after that, we started analyzing our government plan and identifying how the city was already contributing to the SDGs. And I think here what we had in our favor, and I strongly, you know, advise that cities work towards this, and maybe the SDGs and its localization is a way to do it, is to have a centralized, you know, management method where a government area, you know, follows up and monitors all the programs and projects and policies, so you can really assess where you are at and how you need to move forward. So we analyzed our government plans that had at the time had over 1,000 projects, and we literally matched every single one with a target in the SDGs. And then starts, right, okay, so I have this plan, but how do I measure it? So we started seeing some gaps within our own governments. For instance, we didn't have a lot of information about gender. So part of the process of localizing the SDGs also included developing a gender indicator system. So that's one of the outcomes of this process. And then in this analysis, we realized that most of our contributions to the SDGs were in SDG 11 and in SDG 16. So for these two specific SDGs, we decided to do like a co-creation process with a variety of partners and actors, either from here at the local level or international actors. So for both processes, we decided to work together with civil society organizations, other government areas, and international organizations to prioritize which target of each SDG we would focus and work on, and how it was the best way to measure it. So in SDG 11, we focus on housing specifically, and in SDG 16, we took more, or how we localized it is taking more the open government and good governance route, and including citizen participation, active transparency, and public access to information. And here, how we started working with the different government areas was a bit trial and error for us. At first, we decided so from the SDGs that we have more targets on, we would go to each government area that is responsible for implementing each SDG, and we started working with them, but it was taking a lot of time and it wasn't going as we planned. So what we decided to do is to call an interministerial working group, a roundtable with 27 government departments. We presented them what the SDGs are, what they stood for, how we were planning to move forward in the monitoring and the evaluation. And here, I'm sure in every city is the same, we had a variety of government departments and how they work. some of them were more advanced in indicator working. Let's say like the Ministry of Education, they have their own stats unit, so it was different than working with other areas. So what we decided to do is to rely on the national government to, to start also a capacity building process. And also here we had the support of UNDP Argentina. So from, and I'm sorry, I don't think I said this, but we, the focal point of the SDGs, are in the General Secretariat and International Relations, which has, let's say, two defined areas. One is the international relations one, and the other one is the open government, where we usually take strategic agendas such as the SDG, the climate agenda, the gender agenda. We build the city's narrative and long-term path on how to achieve those agendas, and then the other ministries or government departments implement them, right? So after this working group meeting, we started working with each government department in particular in defining the indicators and the targets. And what we did was we also established a midterm target apart from the 2030 target that we wanted to achieve. And here we were very careful when defining the indicators to try to stick to the global and the national indicators that were defined, so we can assure some comparability and make the process as rounded as possible. After that, and I don't think it's less important, we have to validate all the information that we gathered. Here, I think you can go to if you have an official channel of communication between government areas. We did that the first time. And then once the process was more solid, we now have more informal conversations with the government areas. And after all of this was done, we decided to do our first VLR. At the time when we did it, we were preparing a different report. It was called the localization plan or something like that. And it was when New York City and Helsinki presented their first VLRs. So we decided that this document or this format was better for reporting on the SDGs. If you see the structure of our VLR, what we tried to do at the time was to make it more like a VNR, the way that national governments do it, but also taking, since there weren't any guidelines or any formal processes, we also decided to take that to our advantage and take elements or add elements that would benefit us from that report, right? In terms of indicators, I think it's sometimes a challenge for many cities. Like I said, we had bilateral meetings with each of the 27 areas that we identified that contributed to the SDGs. And in these meetings, what we were set to do was first to identify the sources for the indicators, establish baselines, and as I told you, define midterms. Some of them are to 2023, some of them are earlier. That depended of the planning of each government department, and 2030 targets. And also what we decided to do was that to further localize the SDGs was to have complementary indicators. And I'm gonna go to the different types of indicators we have in a minute. And for this, as I also mentioned it briefly, the resources we had was the local SDG adaptation manual that the national focal point had produced for subnational and local governments. We also rely on the global and national indicators and see if that the information was available for us, if it was something we could use. And also every indicator that we select was run through the statistics department to ensure that it was robust and methodologically it made sense for our VLR. Nowadays, what we also do in terms of when we're updating the information, we also work with the planning secretariat here at the city government. So we have different kind of indicators. We have our main indicators that we divide in 3 levels, and we also have the complementary indicators that I think it's what really defines our VLR and allow us to further localize it. So main indicators, level 1, are indicators that are conceptually clear with an established methodology and standards and that are regularly produced. The data is regularly, sorry, that's a hard word, produced. For instance, an example, it can be an indicator from the national census. Then we have level 2 indicators that they are conceptually clear. There is an established methodology and standards, but it's not produced regularly. And then level 3 indicators, it's an indicator we want to include in our VLR, and for one reason or another, they're being developed or tested, or the methodology and standards are not established yet. And then we have the complementary indicators, and they refer to themes, or they're linked in some way to the SDG targets, but they are not, they don't have a direct link with the global or the national indicator. And for example, if we think of SDG 11, target 2, the transport one, I think our main indicator is a percentage of the population that has a public transport stop within 5 blocks of their houses, something like that. And here in Buenos Aires, it's really high. It's like 97%, I think. But what we also wanted to show in measuring this is, do you have an ecobici stop nearby, right? That's our public bike system. How many kilometers of bike lanes there are, how many, I don't know, the underground accessibility, things like that. Also another example in terms of SDG 5 and women representation. So I think the national indicator only called for what percentage of women are legislators, and we added more in that in the terms of how many decision-making positions are held by women in the city government, how many commissions in the local legislature are presided by women. So it really allows us to show the full story of the city and show many management indicators, also result indicators. So I think this is a great opportunity that the VLR gives us on really making the most of it and telling the full story of the city, right? And also it allows us to highlight the needs that we have. If the main indicator tells us that 97% of the population has access to public transport or has a stop nearby, what about the 3%, right? So these complementary indicators, I think, allow us to zoom in into that slow percentage that traditional indicators or main indicators otherwise would let us go, pass on. So our VLRs, yes, we have 3. We started reporting them in 2019, and we made the decision to publish them annually. After doing 3, we are evaluating if this is the way to go, if so much progress or so much or highlighting some things